Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Zenaton, and today I'm bringing you the next episode in the series of videos where I go through each and every single region in Riot's new card game, Legends of Runeterra, and I give every single card that's currently out there right now a rating. Uh, just a quick overview before we get into it. This is a constructed-oriented rating system. Might talk a little bit about Expedition, but predominantly this is going to be for Constructed. The rating system is a 5-star rating system, 0 stars being hyper trash, don't play this card. 5 stars being this card is amazing and you should probably play this card. There are no half stars, so the rating's just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 0. And I believe that's it real quick. So, with that said and done, let's get right into the video. So first off, in the Noxus region, I believe, yeah, we're starting with a bad card. We got the Affectionate Poro, another one of these 1-mana 1/1 Poros. This guy is a 1-mana 1/1 Poro with Challenger. Like his friends and his brothers, this guy's pretty bad. He's getting 0 stars. I feel like I've touched up on these cards in the past videos about why they're bad, but just to put it simply, Poros are bad in general, and 1-mana 1/1s are usually bad, so don't play this guy. Next up, though, we got Arachnoid Host. This card, spiders are a pretty good deck archetype already, and you would think, hey, this card is a spider, and it helps out spiders, so it should go into the spider deck, right? It's okay in the spider deck, and that's it. 5-mana 5/3 when it's summoned, grant other spider allies +2/+0. It's a permanent buff. The issue is 5 mana is a lot, and there's just pretty much better stuff at 5 mana. Things that actually give you decent reach. By the time this card is about to come out, you've probably been hit by an avalanche as a spider user, and your board's probably gone, and there aren't that many spiders. So I'm going to give it 2 stars because it's still fine, and just it's playable in a spider deck, but not amazing. Next up, though, I'm going to stay in the spider camp. We got Arachnoid Sentry, 3 mana 3/2. When you play it, stun an enemy. It's fine. It's not even that good in spiders is the issue. Like, spider decks have just better things and better spiders than this. Like, it's just like a slow card. I know you're like 3 mana 3/2 stun an enemy. That sounds great. That lets you push in damage. It sounds good in theory, but it's not as good in practice. So I'm only gonna give this thing 2 stars. You can put in like a Yasuo stun recall deck, but the spider deck, it's just too slow for a spider deck, so 2 stars only. Next up, though, Arena Battlecaster. 2 mana 2/1. When it attacks, give other battling allies +1/+0 this round. Not really a fan of this card. I think there's just better, like, aggro finishers. Fine and playable in expeditions, I guess, but this is for constructed. Like, there's better things to just do on turn 2, like you'd rather not play a 2-mana 2/1 on turn 2, and for finishers, there's just better stuff out there. So I'm going to give this guy 1 star. It's not good, and just not, it's fine, the effect is fine, it's just that there's better stuff out there, so 1 star. Next up, Arena Bookie, 3 mana 2/1. At the start of the round, discard your lowest cost card to draw 1. No. Just no. Way too slow. You just get like no value off of this. A 3 mana for a 2/1, that's so tiny. You're not even getting real card advantage too, because it's not drawing cards, it's just like, I don't even want to say improving the hand, because sometimes you want the lowest cost cards. So this card is getting 0. I don't even think like a discard-oriented deck would want this if a deck like that shows up, but I could be wrong, because even in those kind of decks, I feel like this is just a little too slow to fit those discard aggro decks. Next up, though, we got Basilisk Rider, the first Allegiance card for Noxus. It's not good. 4 mana 5/2. Allegiance, it gets +1/+1 and Overwhelm, so it becomes a 4 mana 6/3 with Overwhelm. I mean, if it was just a 4 mana 6/3 Overwhelm, I probably still wouldn't play it. I guess maybe if you're a mono Noxus deck and you really need a 4-drop, you can play this. So I'm going to give it 1 star, because I feel like even in mono Noxus, there's probably better stuff out there. So yeah, 1 star. Could even see this getting 0 stars because it's that bad. Next up, though, we got a card I like, though. I like this card. I really, really like this card. I really want to brew with this card. I think in the future, this card might be a big player. Pun not intended, because it has 12 health. 6 mana Battering Ram. 0-12 with Overwhelm. Whenever it attacks, it gets +4/+0. Permanent buff. Great. Lots of stats, and it grows really quickly. It blocks really well. Put it in like a Noxus control deck as a finisher, and just not even like it's as the only finisher, just as a card that can slow down and maybe even stop aggro while becoming a finisher on its own. So the only problem is Noxus kind of sucks for control. So maybe you can play like Shadow Isles or Freljord or something that has better control cards, maybe even Ionia, who's not that good in control, and splash Noxus into your deck for Battering Ram if you really need a finisher. But I'd rather just wait until Noxus gets a few better control cards and use this as the finisher. I'm going to give it 3 stars because I like the potential for it, though. I also want to try it out in Construct. I haven't tried it out myself personally. Next up, we got Blade's Edge. Simple card. 1 mana, fast spell, deal 1 to anything. Really easy. Can hit face, / Nexus, whatever you want to call it. Hit your own units, hit enemy units, put it in self-wound decks. Works as just a good overall ping. The issue with this card is it's just like, it's kind of not worth a card. I'm giving it 3 stars because there are decks that just want a random ping, like self-harm decks and such. And a ping is good and just has value, and you're probably always going to hit something with a ping in the game at the moment, which is why it's getting 3 stars. But I really, really don't like this card. I like it because I like pings, and they can usually get value, and fast spell, of course, for 1 mana, so you can use spell mana. It's nice, but not the biggest fan of this. So 3 stars because I think it's fine and playable, but it's not amazing. It's not going to wow you, in other words. Next up. Oh, well, speaking of bad cards, we got a really bad card. 3 mana, Blood for Blood, fast spell. Deal 1 to an allied follower. If it survives, create a copy of it in hand. Even self-harm decks don't really like this. It's basically 3 mana to draw a card, which is a lot. And you also have to like deal damage to the follower, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it might be a bad thing. And it's not really even 3 mana to draw a card because you need cards. It takes a lot of work to draw a card. It's so slow. This card is just really, really trash, even in self-harm decks with like Vlad and other such things. So I'm giving it 0 stars. I do not like this card at all. Next up, though, we got Brothers Bond. A lot of these cards in Noxus, though, are like kind of like there's very few 5s I think I gave in Noxus, because like a lot of Noxus cards, none of them really wow you and are like, wow, that card seems OP. But Brothers Bond, it's not a 5-star, I think. I don't think I gave this a 5-star. I think I gave it 4 if I remember correctly. 2 mana burst spell. Love burst spells. Grant 2 allies +2/+0. So +4/+0. It's split up, of course, for 2 mana. Seems good. 3 stars. All right, I gave it 3 stars. Never mind. But yeah, I like this card. It's a good trick. Put it with an Overwhelm unit, push in damage. I like it. Probably like even better. I could honestly see this as 5 stars. The more and more I've played against Noxus, the more and more I've grown to hate this card because of my enemy putting this on like a Darius or just some random Overwhelm unit like Captain Farron and just killing me with a big Overwhelm hit. It's kind of annoying, and honestly, I think I could put this up to 4 stars, maybe even 5 stars, but I left it at 3. I think it's suitable for what it does, and it's not bad, but it's not too amazing, but it's probably one of the better cards in Noxus. Next up, though, well, I just mentioned this guy. We got Captain Farron. I have grown to hate this guy. I am a control player, and this guy is pretty much saying, I hate you control players. 8 mana, 8/8. Overwhelm. Big boy. Big stats. When you play him, replace your entire hand with Decimates. That's scary. A Decimate, on the left, is a 5 mana slow spell. Deal 4 to the enemy Nexus. Hello, Lava Axe from Magic the Gathering. It's very, very, like, Captain Farron's very annoying as a control player, but he's really, 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 really slow. And I feel like this is more of a tech card. if you're running into a lot of control players, like a lot of Shadow Isle, Freljord control, you tech in Captain Farron, and then like on turn 8, you play Captain Farron with at least 2 cards in hand, and then turn 9, with at least 1 spell mana, you play Decimate for 8 damage, and then you probably swung in with Captain Farron and maybe got in some damage as well, and use that as a finisher against a control deck. But I'm only going to give it 3 stars. It seems he's fine. Like, that's about where I would put a tech card. Like, tech cards like between 2 and 3, and that's where I see Captain Farron being. He's annoying to me because I'm a control player predominantly, but like if you're going against aggro and you have a Captain Farron in your hand, you're probably a sad boy. Next up, though, who have we got? We got the Crimson Aristocrat. Got the first of the Crimson Crew. I didn't really mean to like get the like CC go Crimson Crew. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, though, Crimson Aristocrat. 2 mana 2/2. When you play it, deal 1 to an ally and grant it +2/+0. It's fine. Like, this is one of the better pings. Doesn't hit your opponent's stuff, but it hits your stuff to activate some self-harm stuff and stuff like that. Makes an ally bigger. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible. Put in like a 1 or 2 of in your deck. Plays really nice with Braum and just regenerate units in general. So I'm going to give it 2 stars because it's not like, it's nothing special. And you're probably not going to run 3 of these in your deck, even in the dedicated self-harm deck. So 2 stars. Next up, Crimson Awakener. I like this guy. He only pretty much falls into the self-harm decks, but he is probably a 3 in those decks, like a 3 of in those decks. 4 mana 5/5, summon him, deals 1 to all other allies. Sounds bad, and you would think it is a negative, but pinging all of your stuff, and then you have some payoff that rewards you for that, it's really good. The only problem is this guy pretty much only goes into that deck and literally nothing else at the moment. So I'm giving him 3 stars because of the lack of flexibility and lack of decks outside of the self-harm deck that want this guy. Really big card for the stats though, or sorry, for the cost. Next up, staying with the Crimson boys, we got the Crimson Curator. 3 mana 3/2. When he survives damage, create a random Crimson unit in your hand. I do not like this guy. Really slow card, 3 mana 3/2. It's very slow, not good stats. Pretty much, unless you have a buff or some kind of heal or some trick or something, you're pretty much only going to get 1 card from this guy, if even. Because your opponent might just play like an Avalanche or a Mystic Shot or something and kill this guy instantly. Because of that, I'm going to give him 1 star. I really am not a fan of this guy. Way too slow. Doesn't have enough health. If it had 1 more health, I'd give this guy like maybe 3 stars because 3/3 could maybe get 2 stars potentially. As he is now, though, not a fan of him. Don't even really like him in self-harm decks, though. Next up, Crimson Disciple. This is probably the best of the Crimson cards, I would say. 2 mana 2/3. Good stats. Survives Avalanche. When she survives damage, deal 2 to the enemy Nexus. That's really good. That's like a lot of damage. Like, even without buffs or anything, if you just ping her twice, that's 4 damage. And she's still around as a 2/1 to try and fight in combat and stuff. Sounds good. I'm giving her 4 stars. Like, this is what she's one of the reasons to play self-harm decks. The issue is, like, the self-harm decks kind of suck, in all honesty, at the moment. So, like, in the future, I feel like if the self-harm decks get more tools, you'll see this card as a 3 of, getting dropped on turn 2 as a 2/3 to brawl a bit and maybe hit your opponent a bit. Maybe block up the aggro if you're against an aggro deck. Against a control deck, she's just going to sit there and just get hit randomly and do damage to the opponent. So, yeah, 4 stars. I like this card. Next up, Round of the Crimson Gang. We got crowd favorite. When I was talking about Arachnoid Host, how it's a okay card in Spider decks, but there's better stuff out there for it, I think this is one of those cards that's better for a Spider deck than the Arachnoid Host. You're probably filling the board with spiders already. This guy is a 4 mana 2/2 with Overwhelm, and when you summon him, he gets +1/+1 for each other ally you have. If you already have 5 units on board, a max board basically, that can fit 1 more unit, he becomes a 4 mana 7/7 with Overwhelm. Great finisher. Now, for me to want to actually play this guy, if you don't have... I'd say I need at least 2 units so I can get a 4-4 Overwhelm. Once it gets to 3 units and I start to get a 5-5 Overwhelm is where I'm happy. If you have nothing on board and you're just playing a 4-mana 2-2 Overwhelm, well, you're probably losing the game already in the first place. So, great finisher for aggro-y board flood swarm style decks like spiders. I like this guy. I'm going to give him 4 stars. Really nice. Really good. Next up, though, I believe we have something. Yeah, we got this. We got a removal spell. I like this removal spell. It's pretty good. It whiffs on a lot of stuff, though, is the issue. 3 mana, fast spell, Culling Strike. Kill a unit with 3 or less power. It whiffs a lot, and a lot of the time, in certain matchups especially, it's going to just sit in your hand forever, and when you can finally play it, it's not going to get much value. It might kill, like, a 1-1 or a 2-1 or something. But it's still good, and it shines a lot against mid-range and aggro, of course. Little expensive, but that's fine. It's like a very powerful ability for 3 mana. Just kill something with spell mana, of course, as well. Just use only spell mana to use this, and you'll be doing well. I'm going to give this card 3 stars because it just whiffs a lot, or sometimes, like, there are just matchups where while it can hit stuff, the stuff it's hitting is just not great. Like, you're going to hit, like, a hapless aristocrat or something, and you don't want to do that. Maybe you do. Maybe you'll hit, like, maybe you do want to kill an aristocrat, but you probably don't. And that's not value. You're using 3 mana to kill a 1 mana card? That's not value at all. Next up, though, we got the first Cham. We got Big Daddy Darius. 6 mana, 6/5, Overwhelm. To level up, the enemy Nexus has 10 or less health. You can do some funny, cute combat stuff with this guy in terms of the ordering of combat and stuff, but most of the time you're just going to play him as a big guy with Overwhelm. Leveled up Darius is just a big boy. Just 6 mana, 10/5 Overwhelm. Very simple. His champion spell, we've already seen Decimate. It's just Decimate. Deal 4 to the enemy Nexus, and of course shuffle Darius like every single champion spell does. It shuffles the champion in. He is fine. He's like just fine. I think he's one of the weaker champions. Like, even if he comes down and he's already leveled up, and you would say like, oh, 10/5 with Overwhelm, that sounds good. It is, but there's just so many ways to deal with Darius by the time he comes down, especially if he's leveled up. So I'm only going to give him 3 stars. I could see myself even bringing him down to 2 stars, because the more and more I'm playing of the game, the more and more I see Darius, and the more and more I'm just not impressed by Darius every time I see him. It's just like, whenever I see him, I'm just like, this is just Tryndamere, but worse. So, yeah, 3 stars. Maybe even 2, but for now, I'm going to keep him at 3. Next up, though, Death Lotus. 2 mana, fast spell. It deals 1 to all battling units. It's one of these cards, like, I like the effect, I'm not sure if it's worth the entire card in your deck. You can put it in... I keep talking about the self-harm deck because, like, a lot of these cards seem to be oriented for self-harm decks. It's fine and actually kind of good in the self-harm decks. Outside of that deck, I don't really know if anyone wants this ability. Like, if there's a Noxus control deck out there, they don't want this. There's probably better stuff out there. So I'm going to give this 2 stars. Because that's it. It's really just good in the self-harm deck, and that's it. Next up, we got Decimate itself. We've seen this already a number of times. 5 mana slow speed. Deal 4 to the enemy Nexus. Again, like I said earlier, it's Lava Axe from Magic the Gathering. And like Lava Axe from Magic the Gathering, it's not that good and constructed. I'd rather just be playing creatures that have Overwhelm that are around the 5 mana cost if I'm playing a 5 mana spell as a finisher. The only way I'd see this played outside of you getting Decimates in your deck or in your hand through something like Captain Farron or Darius is like a dedicated burn deck, just throwing burn at the Nexus over and over and over, and then maybe throwing a Decimate, but we don't have a deck like that at the moment in Runeterra, so this card is just mediocre. Too much mana, 5 mana for only 4 damage. Even 5 mana for 5 damage, I wouldn't play it. Too much mana doesn't do enough and doesn't affect the board. Slow speed really holds it back. I'm giving it 1 star because it could maybe go into a burn deck, but even then I don't like it. Next up, we got Decisive Maneuver. This card, I'm so unsure about this. Like, I really, this is one of those cards I'm very unsure of on a rating. It's a 5 mana fast spell. Stun an enemy, give all enemies +0 or +2 +0 +0 this round. The way I see it is as an aggro finisher, right? You play it, you take an enemy out of combat, and you swing in with the team. The issue is 5 mana again. If you have overwhelm stuff, it's pretty cute. You can like attack in with your team. Your opponent blocks the overwhelm unit. You'll play this before the damage goes through. Get the unit that's blocking your overwhelm unit out there. The way the mechanics work, your overwhelm unit will do a lot of damage, and the block will pretty much not be there anymore. So, there's some stuff, and there's some playability. I'm giving this 3 stars. I could see myself taking this down to 2 or even 1, because I'm very unsure about this. But I'm just gonna go with 3 stars, because I can see scenarios where you like this as an aggro player, but again, I'm very worried about the mana cost, and I think it's just a little, like 1 mana too much. Sorry. Next though, I believe, yeah, we got another champion. We got the champion that a lot of people like. We got Draven, guy with a mustache. 3 mana, 3/3, quick attack. When you play or strike with Draven, create a spinning axe in hand. As you can see on the left, spinning axe, 0 mana burst spell. To play it, you have to discard 1 card to give an ally +1 +0. And to level up Draven, he needs to strike twice with a spinning axe, and then he becomes a 4/4 with quick attack and overwhelm. And whenever he is played or striking as a leveled up Draven, you get 2 spinning axes. His champion spell is Whirling Death, fast spell for 3 mana. Battling ally strikes a battling enemy. It's a good champion spell, so that's nice, but the issue is, who wants Draven in their deck? Not many, I think. Like, maybe a Jinx Draven aggro deck with, like, a lot of discard synergy, but I don't think there's enough discard synergy. So I'm giving it 3 stars because, like, he's still a 3 mana 3/3 quick attacker, which is good. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's no Zed. Don't get me, like, Zed's great. Draven, again, no Zed. So 3 stars. He's got some potential around, and I think he might see a lot more play in the future once we get more discard synergy. For now, though, I don't think there's enough discard synergy to make Draven very top tier. So 3 stars for now. Next up, well, speaking of Draven, we got his biggest fan here. Draven's biggest fan. 1 mana 2/1. When he's summoned, move Draven to the top of your deck if you don't already have him. This is First off, that means you're running Draven if you're playing this guy, which that means your deck's probably a little lackluster. Sorry. In all honesty, it's probably a pretty bad deck if you're running Draven. And then, like, it's not even drawing the card, so it's not actual card draw, it's just card manipulation. Now, this guy said 1 mana 2/1 draw Draven. I would give this guy a much better rating, because that's a 1 mana 2/1 draw a card. But since it's only putting Draven to the top of the deck, I'm only gonna give him 0 stars because I just don't like this card. There's nothing here. Like, a 1 mana 2/1 stat line is fine, but that's it. Like, a deck that wants Draven, I feel, would rather play like more aggressive 1-drops than this thing. So yeah, I'm giving him 0 stars. Sorry, Mr. Fan, but you're not that good. Next up, we got Elixir of Wrath. I like this card. Put it on an overwhelm unit. Gives you some reach against, like, any deck, really. 1 mana burst spell. Give an ally +3 +0 this round. You can use it. It's also 1 mana, so you can go into a combo deck with, like, Shirava. I believe we'll see her later. So yeah. Put it on, like, elusive stuff, too. Seems good. Really nice. I like this card. Very solid for what it does. So 3 stars. Nothing amazing, but it's not bad. Very solid, good card that you'll play, you'll enjoy it. It won't wow you. You won't draw this and be like, thank God I drew Elixir of Wrath. But it's still good, so 3 stars. Next, though, we got Guile. From good card to kind of meh card. 1 mana, slow spell, stun an enemy. That's it. This is one of those cards that's really not worth the entire card in your deck. The effect is good. Slow holds it back the most, in my opinion. If this was fast, this card would be pretty good. But making it a slow spell makes it really bad, in my opinion. And the effect's probably just not worth an entire card in your deck, so I'm giving it 1 star. Just, eh. Like, even in a stun recall deck, I just feel like it's an eh card. Next up, though, we got a House Spider. 2 mana, 2/2. When you summon it, you get a Spirling. Spirling's a 1/1. So it's 2 mana for 3/3 of stats. It's good. It's really, really good. You usually have to pay 3 mana for that. They're both spiders. Good in the spider deck. That's it, really. And it's good in, like, board flood aggro, even so you don't even need spider payoff, too, which is, I mean, this spider deck already is board floody anyway. So I like this card. I'm going to give it 3 stars. It's sweet. Fills out the role really well as like a good solid 2-drop that helps you get on the board and fight for the board. So 2 stars. Next up, we got Intimidating Roar. Card is eh. I believe it used to be a fast spell and then they nerfed it to slow speed. It's a 5 mana slow speed spell. Stun all enemies with 4 or less power. The issue is this is like an aggressive card, right? You want to use this, stun some enemies, stun like a bunch of chump blockers, and swing in with a team and push in that last little bit of damage. The problem is the deck that this would go in, the stun recall deck, is more defensive and more control-y. They don't want this card. So I don't really know who wants this card. Aggro has better tools than this. Stun recall decks don't really like this. They'd rather just have unconditional stuns and recalls. So I'm going to give this thing 0 stars. Like, I don't think any deck wants this. So yeah, 0 stars. Next up, though, we got another champ. We got Katarina. A waifu of many, many people out there. Katarina, 3 mana, 3/2, quick attack. Boy, oh boy, is quick attack annoying when you are trying to play against it. To level her up, she just has to strike. Really, really, really easy to level up Katarina. And then she becomes a 4 mana, 4/3, quick attack. Who says, when you play her, ready your attack so you get to attack again. And when she strikes, recall her. And her champion spell is Death Lotus, which we've seen. Deal 2 to all battling units. Katarina can really, really, really snowball with the game. If you want, you're pretty much only playing her because you want the ready the attack, as it's called now, rally, I believe, effect. And Katarina is probably one of the better ways to get that effect. So I like her. She's going to get 3 stars from me because you're pretty much just playing her for the ready the attack ability. She's still pretty good. 3 mana, 3/2 is fine, especially if it has quick attack, as seen with other cards like Zed. And just 3 power quick attack units in general are good, like Draven as well. They're just generally okay and probably playable. So yeah, 3 stars for Katarina. Pretty nice. Next up, we got Kato the Arm, and I believe that's Shiraza on his shoulder. Kato the Arm is a 5 mana 5/3 support. Give my supported ally +3/+0 and overwhelm this round. I don't really know about this card. I think you could play as like a 1 of, maybe a 2 of in an aggro deck. It's just like whenever I start to play 5 mana cards in aggro decks, I start to get a little iffy of them, and I really want them to be really closing out the game. This guy kind of does that, though. Helps out with the reach. Like, he himself is pretty big. He doesn't have Overwhelm, which is why I'm not going to give him that good of a rating, but giving something Overwhelm and the +3 is really going to help. So, Kato the Arm, it's, he's fine, I think. 2 stars, because I can see him making constructed lists, but only as like a 1 of at most, maybe 2 of at most, but that's it. So yeah, just 2 stars. A little expensive for aggro, and aggro is the only one who would want this guy, so 2 stars. Next up, we got Legion Drummer. 2 mana 3/2 support. Give my supported ally quick attack this round. This card is... it's not that she's bad, it's just that there's a lot of cards that are just better than her. Probably one of the better support cards, though. Like, supports in general kind of lackluster and a little weak in my opinion, but giving quick attacks pretty nice. I'm going to give her 1 star because while she's strong, don't get me wrong, she's really strong as a standalone card and just looking at her by herself. The issue is there's just other 2-drops that are much, much better than her, and I'd rather play in a deck that would want to play Legion Drummer. So 1 star because while she's not bad as a card, there's just better things out there to play, so 1 star. Next up, though, we got Legion General. We got a lot of Legion cards coming up. Legion General is a 5-mana 4/4 with Fearsome. Love Fearsome. When you play this guy, he gets +1/+1 for each unit you've stunned or recalled for the game. Obviously, this guy goes in the stun recall only. The problem is, Nox, if you're playing stun recall, you probably don't want to be in Noxus. You probably want to be like... You definitely want to be an Ionia and maybe like Freljord or something. I'm not sure what else you would want to be. I haven't tried out the stun recall decks too much. And so yeah, this guy, he's payoff for a deck that doesn't really want to run Noxus. So I'm going to give him 2 stars. If he was in a different region, like if this guy was in Ionia, I'd probably give him a better rating, but being in Noxus is holding him back, so only 2 stars from me. Next up, we got a Legion Grenadier. At first, when I first saw this guy, I was scared of this guy. The more and more I've played this against this card and played with this card, the less I'm worried about this guy. At first, I was like, wow, it's Leper Gnome from Hearthstone. But then I realized, oh, he's 2 mana, unlike Leper Gnome's 1 mana. Sure, he's a little bit bigger than Leper Gnome at 3/1, you know, 2 mana, 3/1, last breath, deal 2 to the enemy Nexus. That's pretty much Leper Gnome. Coming down on turn 2 instead of turn 1 is a lot different. And of course, combat is different in Runeterra than it is in Hearthstone, which is a big, big, big nerf. Not even nerf, but downside to playing this guy. So he can be like a 2-drop in aggro decks, but that's it. Like no one wants him besides an aggro deck. And even then, he's not that amazing in aggro decks. Like he'll get your damage in, but he's so easy to kill. So I'm going to give him 3 stars because there's power here. Like if your opponent's just like even slightly stumbling, he's going to get damage in. If he even strikes and hits the Nexus once, that's already great. That's 5 damage because he did 3 to the Nexus and he's probably going to die and he'll deal another 2. So that's 5 damage in total for 2 mana. That's great. The problem is, like, I think there's just better aggro cards for 2 mana or less at 1 mana even. Oh, speaking of Legion cards, I got this guy. He is one of my, he's probably out of all the Legion cards with Legion in the name, he's my favorite. Legion Marauder, 3 mana, 3/2. When he attacks, he gives allied Legion Marauders everywhere +1/+1. I really want to build this guy's deck. I don't know how I would build it. The best way I can see is like Shadow Isles and using a lot of clone effects to make a lot of copies of this guy and attacking a lot with like 3 copies on the field at once is cute. I don't know how constructed playable and constructed worthy that is, but it'll be a fun meme to try out eventually. So I think he's powerful though. Like that's just like really good power because it's affecting all of your Legion Marauders everywhere, in your deck, in your hand, on the field. So just swinging once with the guy and their Legion Marauders are 4/3s, 4/3 mana. So 3 stars from me. The issue is a 3/2 is really smallish for a 3-drop. So he's probably going to die the first time he swings in. Like the first Legion Marauder is probably just being played to buff up the others. I mean, when he swings in, he's already doing the buff. So it's actually a little bit better than I'm saying here, but it's still just like, okay. It's a lot of work to be done, so 3 stars. But really fun, though. Highly recommend playing him if you have him, and if you want to have some fun. Next up, though, we got Legion Rearguard. This is one of the better cards, I think, in Noxus. 1 mana, 3/2. With nothing special about him, just 1 mana, 3/2 can't block. You might think, like, oh, that sounds bad, but if you're playing a 1 mana, 3/2, especially one that can't block, you probably don't want to block. And if you have to block, and you have a Legion Rearguard, it doesn't matter that he can't block. You're probably losing the game if he can't block. So I'm giving this guy, I think he's the first 5-star from Noxus. Great card. You put him down on turn 1, you start getting that damage in, you're golden. You're going to love it. A lot of 1-drops coming down early on turn 1 are usually like 1/1s nowadays. At the moment, sometimes there are 2/1s out there, so he's probably going to get 3 damage in. If he gets in 2 strikes and gets in 6 damage, great. That's 1 mana for 6 damage on the opponent's Nexus. You're going to love it. Next up, though, who have we got? We got the Legion Saboteur. Also a good early aggro card. 1 mana 2/1. Whenever she attacks, deals 1 to the enemy Nexus. Not as big as the rear guard, but she gets her damage in as well by her attack thing of dealing 1 to enemy Nexus. Put this and rear guard in your deck as your 1-drops to just curve off as an aggro deck. So card's great. I'm not as big of a fan of her as the rear guard because of the smaller stats and her dying to just like random pings like a Withering Wail or a Vile Feast or something. So she's only getting 4 stars from me. Still a great card though, don't get me wrong. Next up though, we got the Legion Veteran, 4 mana 4/5. When another ally survives damage, grant it +1/+0. This card is, I don't know about this card. Like, the deck that stems to mind when I think of this guy is self-harm decks. You put it in there, you hurt your own guys, and they get a little bit bigger. The problem is this guy, in my opinion, is fighting Crimson Awakener for his spot, and I'd rather run Crimson Awakener. Not to say you can't run both of them, but at that point, your 4 slot is starting to get a little cluttered, and yeah, but I still think there's some consideration to be running this guy in the 4 slot of self-harm decks. Outside of that deck, though, not really playable. So I'm going to give him 2 stars because of lack of flexibility. Next up, though, we got Might. I've lost a few games to this card. I'm giving this card a lot more respect now. I used to think it wasn't that good. 3 mana burst spell, give an ally +3/+0, and overwhelm. The overwhelm's the important thing. Also 3 mana spell mana, yada yada yada. You can cast it using only spell mana, of course. I've talked about that numerous times throughout this entire series. That's always a great thing. Burst spells are always great. Can't counter them or whatever. Can't react to them. So, you know, that's pretty nice. So I'm giving this 3 stars. At first I gave it only 2 stars, and then the more and more I played Runeterra, the more and more I played against Might, and the more I was like, wow, that's some pretty decent reach. Because you will be like, you might chump something with a 1/1, and then they'll play this Might out of nowhere and deal like 6 to you out of nowhere, and you're like, well, oh no, I'm dead. So yeah, 3 stars for me. Pretty good, pretty solid, and it's just like surprise lethal kind of card. So yeah, Minotaur Reckoner. I think this card is powerful. This is one of those cards I think is powerful and just doesn't have a home. 6 mana 6/6, start of the round, stun the weakest enemy. You might think like stun recall. Again, Noxus kind of is a little lackluster for the stun recall decks. He's fairly thick for his size too, 6 mana 6/6, so even if you're not getting any synergy, he's still doing a decent amount at least locking down the weakest enemy, which isn't that good compared to like the Rhyme Scale Shaman from Freljord, who's frostbiting the strongest enemy, if I believe I remember that card correctly. So I'm not sure about this card. I'm going to give it 2 stars because at the moment, there's not really a home for it because the Stun Recall decks don't really like this guy that much, and they don't really like Noxus at the moment, but this guy's powerful, so there's potential here, I think. Next up, we got Noxian Guillotine. This card, I think, is very divisive in the community. I am a fan of it because I like value, and this is like 2 kill spells for 1 card at its best. The issue is that 6 mana, though, if you're using both of them, and it can only hit damaged units. That's where a lot of people don't like this card. Thing is, like, I'm not sure if there are just enough ways to ping your opponent without just throwing away all your cards to kill something. Like, sure, you might be killing something if you like use a ping and a guillotine, but that's 2 cards to kill 1 card. Sure, you get another guillotine, but you might not be able to use a second guillotine. And you can only use that second guillotine for that round. So I still think it's good, and there's potential. 2 stars. I know some people would probably give this 0 stars. I know some people might even give this up to 4 stars. I don't think this is even considered at a 5-star at all, though. I think there's just too much work going on, and even with that work being done, it's kind of expensive to cast both of the guillotines. So 2 stars. Maybe in the future there might be a Noxus deck that has like a lot of just AoE pings and stuff, and it uses guillotines to get like lots of 2-for-1s or something. At the moment, that's not really a thing, so 2 stars. Next up, we got Fearsome. Sorry. I read Fearsome Pet for is Precious Pet. 1 mana 2/1 with Fearsome, and it's a spider. Pretty nice card. Pretty much only goes into spiders though. Good 1-drop for spiders. That's it. Nothing special about this card. Nothing much to say here. card is getting a 2 because it only goes in spiders and literally nothing else. So yeah, 2 stars. Fairly easy to kill too, so not even 3 stars. Now we got Reckless Trifarian. It's Legion Rearguard's big brother. 3 mana, 5/4. Can't block. The issue is Legion Rearguard costs 1 mana. This guy costs 3 mana. He comes down a little too late. Big stuff that comes down past, I'd say, or at least around turn 3 and later. If they don't have Overwhelm, they're usually just going to get chumped by things like Hapless Aristocrat, who has a 1/1 body, which leaves behind a 1/1 body, so it can chump twice. So it's still big stats for the cost. It's not bad, but I'm going to give it only 2 stars. And the can't block thing, don't worry about the can't block thing. That's not usually important. Just if you're playing cards that can't block, you're usually not blocking anyway. You're going to be beating up your opponent and trying to punch them in the face over and over and over. Next up, we got Reckoning. I really don't know about this card. I like it. I really like it. 6 mana slow spell. If you have a 5+ power ally, kill all units with 4 or less power. I have no idea what to give this card as a rating. I like it though because you can put it in like a control deck. You play something big. You play this card and use it as like a pseudo board wipe, but 6 mana is a lot of mana. And slow spell kind of holds it back, but I'm not sure. And again, it's like some matchups you won't even want this card. Like great against aggro, against control, it's kind of mediocre. So I'm gonna give it 3 stars though, because I think there might be a deck that wants this card eventually. At the moment, I don't think anyone wants this, but maybe in like a Demacia deck or something, because Demacia has a lot of 5+ power stuff. So yeah, maybe Demacia, Noxus, like mid/aggro. I don't think aggro. Yeah, aggro probably doesn't want this. More mid-range, like Garen or something. Next up, we got Savage Reckoner. Expedition card. 7 mana, 7/4. Overwhelm Challenger. Yeah, he's just Expedition. Don't really play this guy in Constructed. He's bad for Constructed. 1 star. Who knows in the future though? Maybe someone will want a 7 mana, 7/4 Challenger with Overwhelm. But yeah, don't play him. Might be okay reach in, like the Overwhelm gives him potential because you use Challenger to challenge like a 1/1 or something, and then that's like 6 damage getting through with Overwhelm, but it's just too expensive for all of that work. Just play like Rasa or something. Rasa's OP. Anyway, next card though. We got Shiraz the Blade. I've talked about this card a few times already over these past videos, and in this video, 4 mana, 3/3. She deals double damage to the Nexus. When I see this card, I think OTK. Give her elusive somehow, throw some buffs on her, and hope your opponent doesn't have like a vengeance or a way to kill her instantly. Pretty nice. Like, I think there's potential here. I'm giving her 3 stars. It's a lot of work to be done, and it's kind of a fragile combo, so I don't have any faith in it, but I could see it becoming a thing and becoming an issue that'll be hard to deal with. So yeah, she gets 3 stars. Next up though, we got Shunpo. Kind of a bad card. 5 mana slow spell. That's bad. Deal 2 to an enemy unit, then ready your attack. No, just play Katarina herself instead of this card. Like, I don't... Maybe if it was a fast spell, so you could do that, you could use that 2 damage to maybe do some kind of cute trick, but I don't think it's worth, so I'm giving it 0 stars. The 2 damage to play a ready and attack card is not worth 5 mana. It's just too expensive, even with spell mana. Next up, though, we got Transfusion. This I like. I love Transfusion. This is one of the self-harm cards. You're going to love it. It's also just good with things with Last Breath that want to die. 2 mana burst spell, deal 1 to an ally to give another ally +2/+2 this round. Off the top of my head, outside of Noxus, you could use it with like Curse Keeper, 2 mana 1/1. When he dies, you get a 4/4. So it kills the 1/1, you get the 4/4 to block with. You buff something up as a nice combat trick. It's a burst spell, so your opponent can't really stop it, and it's going to happen all the time. This card gets 4 stars. I love this card. I think it's really, really powerful. Try it out. You'll love it. Next up, though, we got Trifarian Assessor. I think this card is fine. 4 mana, 4/3. When you play her, you draw 1 card for each 5+ power ally you have. It includes herself. So if you use something like Avaros and Hearthguard to buff her, she turns into a 4 mana, 5/4, draw a card for just herself, not including everything else. You play this against a control player who's playing something like Ruination, and you play this, and you keep playing this, your control player is going to be very sad because they're like, I want a Ruination and clear the board, but they still keep drawing cards, so it's not that good, but they're going to be forced to do it anyway because she herself is pretty big, pretty thick, she hits hard. So I think it's a solid, playable mid-range card. Besides that, I'm not really sure anything else wants to play this card. Maybe like aggro as a top end, but even then it doesn't feel like a good aggro grindy top end card. So I'm gonna give her 2 stars because outside of mid range, I'm not really seeing her being played. So yeah, 2 stars. Next up, Trifarian Glory Seeker. I like this card. I think I'm overrating it. 2 mana, 5/1 challenger, can't block. I really, really do think I overrate this because in my mind, the way I see this card is 2 mana, 5/1, boom, comes down, attacks in for 5, hits the Nexus, 5 damage for 5 or for 2 mana. Next round, you use the challenger, or next round you have an attack, use the challenger thing, get something problematic out of the way. Seems good. The issue is, I think in practice that doesn't happen enough. I gave her 4 stars. Honestly, I think I could easily be convinced and bring her down to like 2 or even 1 star because the more and more I play with her, the more and more I'm like, there's just a lot of pings, a lot of Vile Feast and stuff out there. So I'm not as impressed with her as I used to be, but I still think she's playable and serviceable. So she's fine. Pretty, like, only aggro decks really want her though, but I think she's pretty good. But I do think I'm overrating her, like heavily overrating her in fact. Next up though, we got Trifarian Hopeful, 2 mana, 3/2. If you have another Noxus ally, he gets +2/+0 and becomes a 5/4. Or sorry, 5/2. I wish he became a 5/4. He'd be busted. The problem with this guy is it's not that good. Like a 5/2 for 2 is nice, but just a little, like, there's nothing special about him. He's just a vanilla 5/2, if that. And then sometimes you'll have to play this card as a 3/2. So yeah, not impressed by this guy. There's a 2 mana 2/1 that when it dies it draws a card. Can't remember the name in Freljord. Blocks this guy really well. So yeah, don't play this card. Even Hapless Aristocrat breaks. Yeah, blocks this card fairly well. Card's just like meh. It's pretty decent in aggro, I guess, and serviceable. But I'd rather play the Glory Seeker and other cards than this guy. So I'm gonna give him 1 star. That's it. Like, even in aggro, I just would rather run other 2-drops. Next up, though, we got Trifarian Shieldbreaker. Very vanilla unit. 5 mana, 6/5. Fearsome. This is only a 1-star unit. Pretty much just an expedition unit, so not much to say here. Just, he should stay in expedition. Don't put him in your constructed deck. Maybe if you really need something on the 5-drop slot, maybe, but there's just so much better stuff at 5 mana than this guy, so leave him in expedition. Next up, though, we got Vision. Vision is 3 mana, burst spell. Nice. When you discard it or cast it, grant allies +1/+0. So we got some discard synergy. Use Draven and his axes to discard this. That's a lot of damage coming through. Jinx likes this card if you're doing a Piltover and Zon Noxus deck. Like, I think this is one of the better payoffs for the discard cards, or discard decks. And I'm not that impressed by it, but I do think it's one of the better discard cards. So I'm going to give this thing 3 stars because, like, if you're actually having to cast this spell, it's really, really, really bad. Like, you need to discard the spell. So there's a lot of work you have to do. And the payoff's not that good. But if you're getting this for free and you're using it to, like, I don't know, you're using like Rummage or something or Draven axes, then you're liking this. It's pretty good. Pretty Pretty nice, like in a swarm-based deck, like spiders or something, some like non-spider swarm-based deck. It's a lot of damage, so it's okay. Next up, though, I've been talking about him a lot. We got Vladimir. Good old Vlad. Vladimir is a 5-mana 5/5. Good stats. Whenever he attacks, for each other attacking ally, deal 1 to it and 1 to the enemy Nexus. Nice. Really nice. Gets to hit the opponent, hit him in the face. To level up, he has to have had 6+ allies survive damage, and then becomes a 5-mana 6/6 with regeneration, who still does the deal 1 to the allies and 1 to the Nexus. Transfusion is his champ spell. Transfusion's a great card. This guy is pretty much only going to be played into the self-harm decks, but this is pretty much the reason you're playing a self-harm deck. A very fun card. I've played a lot of Vladimir decks in previous, before the game came out into open beta. Really fun. Not too impressed by him, but I think Vladimir is the main reason you want to play the self-harm decks. I'm giving him 4 stars because, like, he's just powerful, but the self-harm decks are a little clunky, in my opinion, so he's only gonna get 4 stars from me. Pretty nice, though. Gonna love this card to see. Gonna love to see this card more, though. Really fun to watch, and really, I think, skill testing as a card. Next up, though, we got Whirling Death. I believe this is the last card for Noxus. 3 mana, fast spell. It's a Draven spell, if I remember correctly. A battling ally strikes a battling enemy. Great card. The only issue is, like, 3 mana for a kill spell, basically. That sounds good. The only issue is it can only hit battling enemies, so can't hit the bench. So that's gonna hold it back a lot. 4 stars. If it could hit bench, easy 5 stars. The card would be busted. But still very good. Fast spell lets it be used as a trick, which is really nice. So, great card. You're gonna like this card. I believe that's it for Noxus now, though. Yeah, that's it for Noxus. Little lower in power level, in my opinion, than the other regions. I don't think it's the weakest region. I think that honor goes to Piltover and Zaun at the moment. But there's some fun stuff. The self-harm deck's really cool. Aggro has a lot of good tools here. Control potentially has some good tools in the future over here in Noxus. But yeah, I haven't played too much Noxus because I'm not that much of an aggro player. So that's going to be it. Next episode, though, we're going to head over to Piltover and Zaun. We're going to check out, I believe, Teemo, Jinx, Heimerdinger, and others over there. I believe Ezreal's the Force Champion as well over in Piltover and Zaun. So that's going to be fun to go over there. That's going to be it, though, for today's video. I have no other cards to rate for Noxus. I hope you all enjoyed the ratings. If you did, please be sure to leave a like or a comment down below. If you guys want to keep up with all the videos that I'm putting out for Legends of Runeterra, all the rating videos as well, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I've been playing a lot of Legends of Runeterra myself over on my Twitch channel. You can go check it out at twitch.tv/Zenaton. That's pretty much it. I don't really have much to say, you know. Got my selling out. Got my personal shilling selling out, however you want to call it, out of the way. You know, the like, comment, fave, subscribe, and all that stuff. So that's all. I hope you all enjoyed the video. See you soon. So take care. Have fun in Runeterra. And until I see you guys in the next video, bye.